What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Point Forward, the podcast with myself, Iguodala, my main man, Evan Turner.
What's up? What's going on?
Today's episode feels like it will be a guns and butter type of vibes, learning how to build a viable business. And it speaks directly to, I feel like, a lot of listeners, not just listeners, but to, the sneaker world and this fashion world that we've kind of gotten into, the last decade or so. Like to introduce, the guest. If I could, would like to give kind of some background on how we met. It was one of my first tech official pitches where I was able to sit down with him and he talked about the business and what he was trying to start. And I just remember the gentleman telling me about it's basically hard to find authentic sneakers anywhere. And obviously they had their competitors. Most folks got their shoes off eBay or other folks had other places. Flight Club was another place. I think Pick Your Shoes was another website that I use. But finding difficult to find shoes that you couldn't find at retail being sold out. And this is before I even knew about the bots. Talked to me about the business, did the official pitch, and then afterwards, my business partner who sat through it asked me about it. And I'm big on sneakers, but I just didn't quite get it because I didn't understand the bots thing so well. I did understand the authenticity process and how difficult that was, but I didn't quite understand the bots, or I didn't quite understand how big the market was in the resale value. So I think the company was valued at like $9 million. I might be wrong. We'll ask them, am I right? I actually passed, and I kick myself every time. But I was fortunate to get in the later series, and very happy about the investment. So welcome to the show of the CEO of GOAT, the sneaker marketplace, Eddy Lu. Eddy, welcome to the show, and thanks for giving us some of your time.
Andre, Evan, great to be here. And I do remember that now. It was really early on in our career. And I can't believe it was your first pitch, but I'm glad we made it work in a later round for sure.
We're good friends, and now I get to beat up on you on the golf course. And both of us have something to look forward to outside of business while talking business on the golf course. And just learned so much from you. So want to really dive into, your journey as an entrepreneur, kind of to start it off, or should I say, let's start off with your, the sneaker culture and what it means to you personally. So I guess right now, what kind of shoes do you have on?
What I was wearing today, how about we go with that? What I was wearing earlier today, I was wearing a pair of the Union Dunk lows. I love dunks, so I wear that 50% of the time. So
I'm this is where my heart is broken, and I get mad at my parents because my gene pool is amazing, and ET talks about my DNA and how I'm 2% body fat no matter what. But I wear a size 16, so that cuts off like 70% of the shoe market. But ET is able to do all these things, so y'all have your fun, y'all geek out. ET obviously knows the Union. Like some shoes I don't even know because I know they're not in my size. I see not my size and I just forget about it. Like all the Union stuff. None of it's in my size, so y'all have fun with that. ET, what shoe you got on today, or what shoe are you wearing today?
Man, I got the New Balances, the Joe Fresh Goods. Conversations amongst us. Obviously, we're good friends with Joe, Chicago legend, designer, but just much like the Dunks, New Balance has been making a crazy push too the past couple of years. So
this year, it's probably the fastest growing sneaker on our app, New Balance.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I mean, the price and then just some of the collabs, even like the protection packs, you know what I mean? And obviously Joe Fresh Goods been doing this thing. But what's been one of your favorite sneakers ever? Like what's one of the first sneakers you ever owned, and what's your personal favorite? And is there one where you're like, I haven't got it, but I need it like ASAP?
Well, thankfully, we have a sneaker marketplace now that I can get almost every sneaker, including size 16s, Ray. So I know you've been shopping on.
No, if you go on my account, I bought like all the latest New Balances. I get all my shoes, all my golf shoes that I can't get if I'm not on a certain app and I don't get there at 7 a.m. I just go straight to GOAT. I get all my shoes off GOAT. Even my son, I just got him some Bathing Apes, some green ones, the Air Force Ones, white and patent leather green. So I get all my shoes off GOAT.
There we go, for sure. But yeah, the first sneaker I remember just wanting and lusting over were when the pumps came out, the Reebok pumps. And I mean, I don't know if you remember, but they were so expensive. Only the rich kids had them in that first year. And I honestly asked one of my rich friends to try them on on the basketball court, because I just wanted to see how it worked. I was amazed. I mean, it's innovation, right? It's sneaker innovation. Honestly, it didn't work too well, but it's just like fascinating, right? Because like it just like you could tighten your shoe with this gadget. So my parents would not let me buy it. I think like a year or two after, they actually lowered the price, and finally I was able to get in like on the third season of the pumps. But that was definitely the sneaker that really got me into the game.
And what was your favorite sneaker of all time?
Now, I mean, one that I have is, so Tom Sachs is an American artist, and he did this Mars Yard collaboration with Nike, his Mars Yard exhibit. And I mean, it retails for like, $5,000-$6,000 right now. We have this program on GOAT called GOAT Clean, where we actually take used sneakers and we refurbish it. I mean, not too many people want to wear a smelly, dirty, used pair of shoes, but we actually take it, we'll deodorize it, we'll cut out the gum, we'll do all this to it to make it feel fresh. And so I actually bought it for a fraction of the price on GOAT Clean. And so that's my favorite shoe of all time right now.
I know that shoe. Okay, they ain't make my size in that, so.
We'll find it for you.
So let's start before GOAT. You said you became an entrepreneur because, you weren't good at being an employee. Walk me through that statement alone. What's your flaw, or what was it about you not being able to work for somebody, or just personal preference? It could be, anything.
I mean, so I went to Berkeley, I majored in computer science, the whole traditional route, and I went into consulting first. I wasn't that passionate about it. Then I went into investment banking because I was like, hey, it's a more prestigious job. Let's try that. But I mean, you guys know, like on the basketball court, there's 5 guys. You're very important, right? Every one of those 5 guys on the court is very influential. But when you're one person in a 50,000 person cog, like your contribution to work just isn't really there. And I was just never passionate about working, like just in having an insignificant contribution to what I was doing, right? And I work hard, and it's just one of these things where I didn't feel passionate. And right at that time, it was when I was living with my roommate, who is now my co-founder. We've been co-founders for over 15 years now. And we were just talking about just how just unpassionate we were working for kind of this big machine. And so we were just like, hey, we're still young. Why don't we just like quit and figure out something to do? The word startup didn't even exist back then, to be honest. It was like, let's just start a business together. And working at an investment bank, you just don't have time to like do a side hustle, right? So we actually decided to quit cold turkey on the same exact day. No idea. We just said, if we're going to do this while we're young, let's just quit now. We can always find a job later and just like figure it out. And this was in like 06, 07. 2007 was right when the iPhone came out. I was a hardcore BlackBerry user coming from banking. I would never give up my BlackBerry physical keyboard. But my co-founder, who's really into design, he's always on the forefront of art and design. And he was just like, this thing's the new thing, the new generation. And so I started playing with it. And eventually when the App Store came out, we were like, we got to build apps for this. And that was the first business we did. We created apps for the iPhone. Funny enough, I'm talking to you guys, our most successful app was a basketball app. It was a game where it was like basketball meets American Gladiators, where you had to like, fight through beasts and monsters and dribble and like shoot and all that stuff to score points. And it was the best-selling app that we made.
So what was that like, coming from an immigrant family? How did your parents respond to you quitting your job?
Oh, my dad was livid. Livid. You guys can probably relate, but like for my dad, my mom and him came from Taiwan. They worked hard. They couldn't get corporate jobs, right? They had to own their own small business and work.
Yeah. So even then, I know it didn't make you happy, but obviously you had a couple startup companies. You had, obviously investors where the iPhone situation might not have worked out the best. So, were you ever like super, super close? Like, forget this, I got too much debt. It's too much, too much, instability on my hands. Because right around that time, the market crashed and, not only were you poor, everybody was poor. So investing in your own ideas is kind of like a big risk. What gave you the confidence to keep, being innovative and creating more? Were you like, was there something in the past iPhone games where you're like, hey, each month we might not be making a lot, but we're kind of, treading the tires a little bit and pushing the needle?
I mean, Evan, we failed a lot. We pivoted a bunch from the iPhone games into a whole bunch of other ideas. And, we had investors, and we, for whatever reason, I mean, to be a good startup founder, I really think you have to have a bunch of foolishness, a bunch of kind of naivete, and just like, you just have to believe in yourself, and you don't really give up. I mean, that's what a good startup founder is. So for whatever reason, we just like never gave up. And it was even up to a point where we were about to be acqui-hired. And, in startup language, an acqui-hire is when you're not acquired, you're acqui-hired because they're just buying the talent. So you don't really make any money. You just kind of go work for another company, but you call it an acquisition to kind of save face. And we were about to, become middle managers at some random social media company. And Daishin, my co-founder, and I looked at each other and we were just like, is this what we want to do for the rest of our lives? Like work at a social media company as a middle manager and call it a day? And we weren't ready. And so we told the company and we told our investors that we just weren't going to give up, that we were still hungry. We weren't burnt out. We just wanted to keep building. And so I do think, even though we had that as a backup, we were like, hey, we could always work at another company. It wasn't like, it was just like a false sense of hope where we could tell our friends that we could do that, but we would just keep going until we made it.
So what was GOAT actually an idea sparked, or was it a pivot from something you saw before in another company that led you to GOAT?
GOAT started actually because my co-founder Daishin, he's been a lifelong sneaker enthusiast. His first pair of Jordans were when he was 10 years old. He got good grades in school. So his dad bought him these pair of Jordan 5 grapes, and he became a sneaker enthusiast ever since. I mean, posters on his wall went from Marty McFly to Michael Jordan overnight. And he's just, loves sneakers. And he just, really, really has embraced sneaker culture. And so fast forward to a few years, 2013, 2014, Nike, of course, retro sneakers, and they retroed that exact pair, the Jordan 5 grapes. And of course, he had to have them since it was the first Jordan he ever owned. So he went on eBay, which was the largest sneaker marketplace at the time. He knows what he's doing. He scoured all hundreds of listings for, in terms of sellers selling these grapes. He found the pair, he bought them, he received them, and they turned out to be fake. And he was so disappointed. And he came to work that day, and we were chatting. And this was, we were working on another idea right at that time. But of course, we were like, it wasn't really working out. So we were thinking of other ideas to do at that moment. And he was just complaining to me about it. And he was just like, I bought a pair of grapes on eBay. They turned out to be fake. And he was trying to get his money back. But as you guys know, I mean, on eBay, it's tough, right? You're just trying to fight with eBay and trying to fight with the seller. And he just gave up. And then we were just like, how come in this day and age, we're spending hundreds of dollars online and we still have to worry if something's real or fake? And so that's how GOAT was born. We were just like, why don't we build a marketplace based on trust and safety? Let's authenticate every single thing we sell so that the consumer doesn't have to worry if it's real or fake ever again.
So during that time when you came up with this idea, because we just spoke on with Andre, he passed the first couple of times, invested later. How are you able to, convince the investors to give you money? Because to solve that problem and what you're doing almost seemed impossible back in the day.
When we raised our first round of money for GOAT, it was the hardest round I ever raised. It's thanks to people like Andre who passed on me. But it was because we pivoted so much that even though our numbers were growing and doing really well, people didn't really believe that we could be the entrepreneurs to do it. Plus, a lot of VCs, they're not, let's call it, in the sneaker culture, right? They didn't really understand. They were like, is this a fad? Is this a niche? Is this like, what is this? And we had to showcase to investors that, hey, the younger generation is just getting much more fashion forward these days. They don't just wear one pair of sneakers to school every single day of the week now. They like to accessorize. They're in much more into fashion. The world's getting more casual. You can wear sneakers now to restaurants and bars and clubs. You don't have to wear black shoes. And we really think this is the start of a new boom in e-commerce. And so it took a lot of convincing for us to really get over the hump.
So walk me through how did GOAT make its money when it first started? What was the way to, get the investors to see this is a viable business to capitalize on?
So what we did was we pioneered what we call ship to verify, which means that when Andre buys a size 16 from, let's say, Evan's the seller, you guys don't know each other. You guys don't talk or ever transact. Evan will send the pair of sneakers that he's selling directly to one of our GOAT warehouses for us to authenticate and quality check. And at that time, we pay Evan, but we pay him and we take our transaction fee. And then we ship it to Andre. So that way we can always be in the middle of the transaction and we can be that trust barrier for the consumers. So that's how we started. And that's the majority of our sales now. We also do consignment now where if you've noticed on GOAT, there's a thing called instant ship because of course the traditional way, it takes some time. I mean, Evan has to ship his shoes to GOAT. We have to authenticate it and then we have to ship it over to Andre. But with instant ship, we have over 1 million sneakers consigned in our warehouses around the world now. So if you want something tomorrow, you can choose the instant ship option. We make a little more margin on that, and then we ship the sneaker directly to you the next day.
Now, talk to me about the margins. What are the margins on a transaction like this?
We take 9.5% from the seller on the transaction, and then things like instant ship and such. It's upwards of 15 to 20%.
And how did you come to setting that price, your take? I'm always interested to know, they're surging on Uber, they're surging on some of the, transportation apps and, it goes ups and down, fluctuates. But, how do you find that sweet spot between making a customer want to do business with you, but also making a good profit off of your service?
Andre, I wish I could tell you a very sophisticated answer, but when we were a 5-person startup, honestly, it was eBay's at 10%. Let's go to 9.5%.
I like it.
So I got a question, Eddie. Tell us about the Black Friday deal that, when you first started, it became somewhat of a inflection point for your business.
Yeah, so we launched in July of 2015, and we didn't have many customers back then. It was still slim pickings. I mean, there was a day in September, I still remember, where it was 6 p.m. I think the 5 or 6 of us were still in the office working. We didn't sell one sneaker the whole entire day. And I actually secretly went in and bought a pair of sneakers so I could tell the team that we sold something that day. It was sad. It was actually a pair of New Balances that I bought. I still remember. And so we weren't, we were growing a little bit, but we weren't that well known at the time. I mean, we were maybe a month, we were selling 20, 30, $40,000, $50,000 worth of sneakers at that time. It was only until Black Friday when Sen, who's our chief brand officer now, he was like, Eddie, let's do a Black Friday promo. I was like, do whatever you want. It's not like anyone's going to see it. I mean, no one knows about this, right? And so he was like, let's just discount the hottest styles of the year to retail price. And this was the year that the Yeezy Pirate Blacks came out, the Turtle Doves, the Supreme Jordan 5 collab, all those sneakers. And they were going for like $400 to $600 on our app, and they retail for like $200, right? And so we didn't have much money. We bought like 100 pairs of these to give out for Black Friday at retail price, but we put out the promo, and every single publication in our industry wrote about us. And we're talking about Hypebeast, Highsnobiety, Sneaker News, etc. Complex. They wrote, they were just like, this app is having a restock for Black Friday, and they kind of blew it out of proportion. It wasn't a restock, right? It was just us buying a few, like 100 pairs of sneakers to raffle off. But the internet thought it was a genuine restock. And I mean, people were like, hey, I'm skipping school today. I'm skipping work today. I have to get this pair at retail. And we literally, instead of having 100 users a day, we had over 100,000 users sign up for our Black Friday campaign. And I was one of 2 backend engineers at the time working on the app, and back then, when you're a startup, you don't do any scaling things, right? You don't optimize any database queries. You don't cache any pages. So our site was just crashing constantly, and no one could use our app. And of course, that day of Black Friday, when 100,000 people try to access the app, chaos ensued. I mean, our Instagram page was littered with like FUs and I hate you, etc. And we thought our company was dead and done, right? Because we were a no-name company and people hated us. Our investor called us at like 4 p.m. None of us had eaten. None of us had slept. We were just trying to keep the site up. And he was like, is everything okay? And I was like, no, nothing's okay. I don't know what's going to happen. And he said something I'll always remember. He was just like, at your stage in your company's life, it's better to be hated than unknown. And it was so true. Like, if we tried something like that today, we would never recover, right? We're in a big established company now. But back then, people hated us in the moment, but they looked at our app and they're like, oh, I understand what these guys are doing. They authenticate every sneaker, so they protect us against fakes. And so they kind of gave us a pass because they were just like, okay, Black Friday, they had a hiccup, but I like what the service is doing for me. And honestly, we never look back from a company, or as a company, we never look back. Right after that, we got so many orders that we had to turn off our marketing because we just couldn't keep up with the demand that we were seeing. And that was our true inflection point. We never looked back.
So with a booming business with 40 plus million customers and 700,000 plus sellers, how has the scale changed business operations?
It's been great. And I mean, operational rigor is something that we talk about a lot at this company. I love efficiency. It's what drives me. And imagine how painful it was back in the day when we only had one authentication center in LA. So imagine if the buyer was in New York and the seller was in New York. Instead of just traveling from New York to New York, the seller had to send it all the way across country to LA to authenticate. And we have to send it all the way back across country for the buyer to receive it. Now we have 17 authentication centers around the world so that we can really be efficient at giving buyers and sellers the fastest, most authentic experience possible. So scale like that has helped tremendously.
You expanded since you've been scaling and everything else like that. Obviously, you guys have, haven't looked back, but you guys also recently expanded to the Asian markets. What was the process like getting established overseas, and how different is the business in Asia when compared to the American market?
I mean, Evan, you have some experience, right, with leaning and such as well. It's very different, and I would say not just Asia, but globally, it's cross-border e-commerce is tough. I mean, you have tariffs and taxes and duties for every single country, and it's not. The U.S. has different tariffs and duties going to Hong Kong than Dubai might have going to Hong Kong. So it's just our international team is just so good at just really being buttoned up on how we get product moving across the world, because our supply comes from everywhere now. It comes from Asia, it comes from Europe, it comes from every part of the world going into every other part of the world. So we've had to be so good at just establishing entities around the world and establishing our footprint around the world as well.
So I got a question in terms of, Evan and I talk a lot about the culture, a lot about branding, a lot about our influence on any and everything in terms of the consumer products as African Americans, and then Asians as well. Their influence. Japan is a big movement. They're always setting the trends. But in terms of the acquisition you made of Flight Club to the GOAT brand, and how important was that addition in earning respect in the industry?
I mean, Flight Club started in 2005, 10 years before GOAT even existed. It was the gold standard in brick-and-mortar sneaker consignment. I mean, everyone who wanted some cool sneakers knew about Flight Club. And that's why the brand is so important till this day. I mean, I had a friend come from Italy and his girlfriend didn't even know that GOAT was part of Flight Club. And she was like, oh, I want to go visit the Flight Club store. And I was like, how do you know about it? She was just like, oh, we all know about Flight Club. It's such a part of sneaker culture that, when we started GOAT, we were friends with the Flight Club founders. And as we started to build our app online, I mean, we were, kind of the online equivalent of what Flight Club was for New York and LA back in the day. And so as we were growing, we were just friends with the Flight Club founder, and they wanted to grow their online presence. We wanted to get more into omnichannel retail. So we started chatting, and we're just like, hey, instead of like compete against each other, because we are kind of going to that direction, why don't we just join forces and do it together? And really, we can lend our tech expertise to you. You can lend your retail expertise to us, and we can grow from there. And so we did the acquisition in early 2018, and it's been so great for both brands. I mean, two distinct entities and two distinct customer profiles, but together on the back end, we are just a great place to buy sneakers.
Yeah. So is that what made you comfortable enough from, the back when Flight Club and everything like that? You guys first started with shoes and now you expanded to the fashion and the retail space and that. What gave you that comfortability? Was it the idea of the youth and the new millennials basically want to switch up and, diversify, their closet basically?
You can't just wear sneakers out. You got to wear clothes. And, on our app, of course, we sell a whole range of sneakers, right? A lot of people think that GOAT just sells expensive sneakers, but we sell a lot of $50 sneakers. 30 to 40% of our sales are under retail price. So, there's something for everyone. And we wanted to make sure we could have apparel that complements someone from, buying your standard pair of Chucks all the way to, $20,000 sneakers. So we wanted to give them that experience. People were asking for apparel because, of course, streetwear culture and luxury is really the evolution of someone who's really into sneakers. It's like, hey, I'm willing to pay $500 for a pair of sneakers. Now I want to also spend $500 to look good elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I love that street style section you guys added to the app. It shows all the street styles from around the world. So was it Paris? It'll show some of that stuff, some of the fashion forward moments. So I like that part. That was pretty cool.
It's one of these things where, you have transactional marketplaces out there. And from day one, we said, hey, we're not going to build just a transactional marketplace. So there's no loyalty where you just go and find the cheapest price and go buy and come back if you want another cheap item. For us, we said, let's build a brand from day one. And we wanted to build a fashion brand because we thought it was just so accretive to the overall experience where sneakers and fashion, it's an emotional experience, right? You have these transactional marketplaces that are honestly pretty soulless. But for us, we want to showcase the style. How do you wear your sneakers? How do you wear your fashion out on the streets of Paris and Milan and New York City, et cetera? And so that's why you'll see in our app, it looks like a retail-like experience because that's what we want it to be.
Now, I want to go back to the brick and mortar thing. Obviously, I've been investing in the tech space for about 8 years now. And there was a time where everything was about direct to consumer, and not spending as much money on brick and mortar or getting out of the retail space. And then it kind of rang true during the pandemic in terms of you had to shut down all your operations with brick and mortar anyway. But there was a trend just before COVID hit that there was an importance to brick and mortar, and there was something to actually being able to see and feel your customers. I know I invested in Allbirds. Allbirds is the shoes that a lot of the folks in the Valley wear before you got a hold of them. But talk to me about, where your thoughts are on what role brick and mortar stores play in the future of GOAT.
So people always say retail is dead, right? I would change that and say traditional retail is dead, but experiential retail is one of the best marketing channels you could ever have. I mean, take Flight Club, where you see, the first time I went to Flight Club LA, it was such an amazing experience. It's a tactile experience. You get to touch and feel and wear some of the grails that you've always been waiting to look at and touch. And so it's just such an experience where you can't get that experience online. And that's why the Flight Club brand is so strong, right? Flight Club's web business is amazing, but it's only because of our brick and mortar stores that makes that experience online work, because now you can say, hey, I can't go to the store, but I can still have the Flight Club experience online. So I think I would say experiential brick and mortar is always going to have its place in society. And I think it's a very, very important marketing channel for us here.
So how has, the user experience informed growth for you? How do you know what to place on the platform or the marketplace next? You got shoes, you got clothes. Like, what's coming next? And then what data are you looking at to let you know in which direction to go?
Well, at GOAT, we like to say that we're the marketplace for products from the past, present, and future. And it's really powerful, because if you go to a department store today, they only have this year's and this season's product, and only product that hasn't sold out yet. That's all you can buy at a regular retail store, right? But on GOAT, we have product from 1985, the original Jordan 1, all the way to the Jordan 36, for example, right? That you can buy. And so we have product from the past, the present, and now we are actually launching product with brands. So future product, their brands are coming to us to launch directly on GOAT. We're not just a third-party marketplace anymore. We have brands such as Balenciaga, Alexander McQueen, Versace, for example. We're partnering with them to launch not just their sneakers, but their apparel on GOAT. And so I really think we're this one-stop shop for the new generation of shopper, because, the younger generation, they don't just want to wear this year's styles like everyone else and look the same like everyone else. They want to be unique and have a unique style. And so now they can mix and match products from the past, present, future, all into one look, all from one place on GOAT.
So right there with that, all these brands that you're partnering with, obviously that kind of it decreases your marketing costs for the most part, right?
What's great about the sneaker market is that almost every week there is a new release. And I like saying that the iPhone has a release once a year and you have lines out the door at the Apple Store, but you have sneaker lines every single week almost outside of sneaker stores. And it's just a great marketing event every single weekend for us.
Obviously, it's a great, marketing event, every week. And with that popularity keeps growing, there's rumor that you all are going to go public pretty soon. And, when do you know that's the right time? And would it be too soon, considering you just started from 2015? Are you ready to really, jump on that board and, go straight for it?
Well, we have the fortune of raising money last year. I mean, in total, we've raised almost $500 million. And so for us, I think going public is just a stepping stone in building a big business. I mean, the goal for me is to continue to build a big, long-lasting business. And, we don't really talk about going public much within the company, because for us, it's another funding event, just like we've done other private funding events in the past. And so for us, it's like, let's build the business. And when the time is right to go public, we'll go public, but we're in no rush to do so.
Correct. So what are the pros to going public as a well-established brand?
I think definitely you have more marketing and more people that can really understand the business. You have people that can invest in the business. So the main thing is that I would love for our sellers and our buyers to say, hey, I really love GOAT. I love it so much that I'm willing to invest in the company, just like you did, Andre, when you invested. And so I think that would be great. We have our consumers being able to join us on the ride.
So what path do you take going public? Because I've learned about so many different ways. Obviously, the SPACs, they came in hot the last 2 years, and then we're seeing kind of where they're going, lost a lot of their values, but we're in a bear market right now. There's also the direct listings. I was at an internship, and one of the conferences was on direct listing, which is pretty cool. And then there's also the traditional way to go public, which is through a traditional bank, but they know how to set the prices and they know how to get paid through their customers. And there was a whole thing behind that. So have you given all of this thought? I'm just, kind of giving our listeners hopefully education to go out and want to learn more about different paths to companies going public.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked to a lot of people and we've really, we understand all of that. But like I said, I mean, we're just not really, that's not my top priority right now. My top priority is to continue to build a big business. So we've heard pitches from a lot of people, but for us, it's like, hey, we'll chat some more when we're ready. For now, it's like, we're not even going to be bothered with some of that stuff. Let's focus.
And I like that. And that kind of takes me to, there's a lot of things going on in the basketball world currently. And the big part of the NBA is free agency and player movement. And obviously there's been so many things going on, and they almost forgot we're champions because it's just that 365, 12-month cycle that the NBA has. And you see a lot of player movement. You see a lot of guys teaming up. You see a lot of guys going in different directions. You're seeing, even Utah Jazz of all places, which is considered a smaller market, but you hear about the rumors of the turmoil with their two superstars, they say. So with all that being said, what I've learned about the tech space is, ego is a big issue in the tech space as well, especially with employees. And when I came in, it's like, we want you to give a motivational speech to our employees because, we want teamwork to be the thing. And I'll go, you got a bunch of smart geniuses all from MIT and, Harvard Business School and, just Stanford, all walks of life. How hard is it? And they would go, no, it's just like when you talk about, how teammates, the ego may get in the way of the culture of the team. So it started to all make sense. So with your co-founder, you've been at it for a good amount of time. Many startups fail or fall apart because co-founders can't get along or stay on the same page. With all that being said, how do you and your co-founder, how have you made it work and how have you kept pushing without there being any rift between you two on this amazing journey you've been on?
Yeah, it's crazy. You're exactly right, Andre. I mean, we did Y Combinator, and I think after our Y Combinator batch, half the companies broke apart because of co-founder issues. It's such an important topic. And for us, now that you've mentioned, I actually have a basketball story about this that shows kind of how on the same page my co-founder and I are. So we were grinding and working on startup stuff, and we were going to play basketball with a few of our friends, just a pickup game after work, or it was like 4 p.m. or something. And so we all went there. But, Daish and I, we just, whatever we were working on just wasn't working. And there was some frustrations. And so for whatever reason, of course, we got to the basketball court. We ended up on different teams. We ended up guarding each other because we're similar size. And those frustrations just came out on the basketball court where I was frustrated at him. He was frustrated at me. So I'm driving down the lane. He's pushing me. He's driving down the lane. I'm pushing him. It kept getting more and more physical. And we started to have a physical brawl. Like he came down the lane. I threw him on the ground, literally. And our friends had to separate us. And the game stopped right away. And everyone was like, dude, what's going on? And we were just getting out our aggressions. And the really sad and ironic thing is that while they separated us, we drove together. We in the same car to the basketball court and from the office, right? So we had to drive back there. And our friends were like, do you want us to give you separate rides or whatever? Because, obviously you guys are fighting. We're like, no, we got this. And we got in the car and we literally turned to each other. We looked at each other. We gave each other a fist bump and we're like, back to work. And he was like, yep, let's go back to work. And we just we knew what the goal was. The end mission was that we're going to fight through all adversity. Resilience is one of our core values because you have to be so resilient as a startup founder. So this was like small potatoes to us. It was like, hey, we have a fight. Let's just get over it and get back to work.
It kind of reminds me of ET and myself and kind of like our aha moment. We spoke about it plenty of times on the pod and it took us, we played one-on-one versus each other late in the season and both of us had crazy games coming out of our one-on-one session. And it was like, why the game is so much easier after we play one-on-one because we're both great defenders. We're both creative with the ball. We both can get us shot off and us pushing each other made it easier when we played. Like, why haven't we been doing this all year? So it's just, that's an amazing thing to hear. So, ET, we're going to start our own business and
yeah, for sure.
We're going to figure it out.
Hopefully less fights though. So I guess I want to tap into, the sneaker culture in relation to, basketball and the NBA. And then kind of like, how has the sneaker culture evolved since Michael Jordan, really started the obsession? I mean, I would argue that before Jordan came on the scene, basketball sneakers were a utility. It was just a utility. And I mean, we've seen how much basketball and hip hop culture has influenced sneaker culture and grown the pie. Basketball is so important. I'll give a stat, just speaking of Jordans, when The Last Dance came out, during COVID, when The Last Dance came out, Jordan sales on our app grew 80% week over week from before when The Last Dance aired to after The Last Dance aired. Because, this new generation, they didn't grow up watching Mike, right? Like they don't, why is the flu game sneaker so important, right? Like what, And so when they saw The Last Dance, I think they were just like, wow, this is why I wear the band ones. This is why I wear certain sneakers. And popularity on Jordan just went exponential after that. So
and I think you're seeing sneaker sales and consumer sentiments and spending coming from good content. I think you're seeing that across the board whenever you have really good content that people are gravitating to, because even Stranger Things, they had a run of gear. And then my son just bought some Lightning McQueen clogs that light up or something crazy. And then Apple just did a deal with Nike for Ted Lasso. So I think, it's a lot.
And and you're absolutely right. And that's what I'm saying. One way it evolved. And I think obviously it just went into, one level with Michael Jordan involved is Michael Jordan went from being Mike Jordan to being a new Chuck Taylor. I feel like the new Jordan 1s are legit. Everybody in their mind just roster Jordan 1s, low, high, mid, whatever. But I feel like now Jordans are so, from back, like as opposed to back in the day, so easy to get and everything. I feel like the new face of a shoe or what everybody had on Ted Lasso, like you said, he's middle America white guy in a soccer TV show, and he's wearing matching Jordan 1s with every outfit. You know what I'm saying?
Now, last question. Where would we see GOAT in 10 years? What would it look like?
GOAT in 10 years. Well, I mean, I think we want to be that first stop for a consumer's fashion needs. I mean, you're seeing that we are pushing very much into fashion. And so it's just, we want people to feel their greatest when they shop on GOAT. I mean, GOAT's called the greatest of all time, right? So we want you to look and feel your greatest when you shop on GOAT. Be that one-stop shop where you can find vintage product, you can find new product, you can find hype product, or just, even budget product that looks good. And we want to help you be able to style that. So I think you'll see us continue to push internationally. You'll see us continue to push into apparel. I mean, we just started with apparel. It's something that we're going to continue to go. And you're going to see that we're going to be the best place to shop, period.
Thank you for the time. Appreciate you. If any of y'all need some cool sneakers, make sure y'all download the GOAT app, which I have. That'd probably be cool. You can have a competition based on your sneaker closet. That's the metaverse GOAT way. I'm throwing out a bunch of crazy ideas, but let's not make Nike too mad. I won't go that lane.
Man, Eddie, take $250,000. You put it into that account you got for GOAT. I'm gonna wire mine over tomorrow. All right. So I can get on before y'all go public. All right.
Sounds like a plan.
Best of luck, Eddie. Really appreciate the time and continued success.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yes, sir.